It was a particularly punishing week for the traders, and if you look at what led to almost a flat kind of a week for the NIFTY, which is down just about 1/3%, and Sensex almost unchanged. It was a mix of stocks which are helping the NIFTY and the Sensex to hold up. Stocks like Tata Motors, which was up about 7% for the week. Sun Pharma, after a good set of numbers, was up around 5.5%. HDFC Bank. Also from the oil and gas sector, very divergent views or stock movements coming in. ONGC was up around 3%, but Reliance Industries, that was a big laggard this week, around 50 rupees eroded over there. SBI too, after a weak set of numbers, saw some fresh short positions coming in and was down around 3%. DLF almost crumpled out there, down about 7%, and so was Maruti on the news that it will be excluded from the MSCI index from February 28th. Cairn India slipped to a new, almost a year low, and was down around 5% for the week, 3.5% at closing. And this was despite the inflation number coming in almost to a year low. So the market was not really responding to any good news. And the damage in the mid-caps then was much higher, about 4% cut on the small caps. There was about 2% on the mid-caps.
Oh, yes, indeed. And that's pretty much been the case for the last couple of weeks. I mean, we had the mid-cap index lose about 2% even last week. And the small-cap index, the carnage there has been pretty significant. So 3.5% lost there. And that's also been telling on the market breadth, which continues to be negative day on day. In terms of stock-specific activity, you had the sugar stocks, which were in focus this week. You also had real estate stocks, which lost out. In fact, the real estate index also succumbed to selling pressure. And aside of that, the UB group of stocks, United Breweries, United Spirits, those were stocks that the market focused on. The Kingfisher impact was clear from the stock's performance as well. And then, of course, earnings, where stocks such as Suzlon Energy got hammered post numbers, and Apollo Tyres on news developments was a stock which saw price and volume activity. Get in both our guests to take a look at the coming week. Prakash Devan, Chief Portfolio Strategist at Prakash Devan's Wealth Circle, and Deepak Mohani will take us through the technical picture into the coming week. Good evening to both of you. Start off with you, Prakash, first. What's the perspective that you can offer for the coming week?
Well, Tanvi, as Ajay very rightly said, it's been a tough week. Particularly, it's kind of kept people on the edge in terms of the kind of carnage we've seen on the small cap and the mid cap beneath a very range-bound Nifty. Fortunately, the week's kind of ended at a positive note. There's been some sort of a respite, and what's important for people now too is whether to look forward to some sort of a respite on the mid caps as well. And my sense is, yes, we could see the Nifty rebound. Particularly, we've had a lot of positive news flow in this week. You had the inflation data, which was fairly favorable. You also had the absorption of all those OFS getting through very soundly. So things have been kind of fairly benign in terms of what to look for. And my sense is we'll start seeing some sort of a DI buying also begin come next week. So you could look forward to some sort of a rebound of sorts, but it will be, of course, calibrated, not overboard or something. But some of the stocks that have got hammered could see some respite, particularly DLF, Maruti, and stuff like that.
Deepak, have you looked at the charts of some of the large cap losers this week, be it Reliance, even Maruti, DLF, SBI, Cairn slipped to 1 year low? Which of these is looking the weakest on the charts according to you?
The weakest from the point of view that if one were to go short next week, which one would it be? None of these really tanked that much. They bounced back. Tata Motors, for example, yesterday was being spoken about as in heading deeply lower, but it's made a rather good rebound. So State Bank has steadied up, though it's finished the week on a negative. Today was a reasonably flat session for it. So I don't think I would be trigger happy with any of the heavyweights, going short in any of the heavyweights. The market itself could recover. It's been going down quite a bit. It's started to stabilize a little bit today, closed above the lows of the session. So short selling opportunities are more in the small and mid cap areas, not so much the index heavyweights.
Prakash, come to you on the UB group of stocks and also Kingfisher Airlines.
Well, this set of stocks, Tanvi, is a trader's delight, no doubt. But you need a very strong stomach to digest all this and be very clearly level-headed to to actually weather the storm. I mean, look at the news flow. One day you have the expectation of the competition commission clearing the deal and the stock is up, and the next day you have probably the bankers wanting to recall loans, and the third day you have the management coming in clarifying and things are back to normal. So it's not something that is going to offer great delight to an investor. But if you ask me fundamentally, once the deal goes through and the contours are clear, then maybe, it's worth investing into United Spirits, which is the flagship company, and that could pay off on a longer term basis. But structurally, I would be constructive on that, but not till, things are clear. And the KFA is definitely an avoid even right now, because it could lose value and come down to almost like not even worth the paper it's written on.
Deepak, out of the mid-cap space, especially from the results side, opto circuits, bad results, there have been issues circling the company, and traders love to, short this particular one because it's available in the F&O side. How does the charts look going forward? Does it offer equal amount of shorting opportunity?
It still does. It did recover slightly in the last couple of hours. It does recover sharply. Earlier in the week, you had the stock going up from 65 to 72 rupees. That's 10% within 2 hours. So it does present that kind of bounce back risk. So if you trade it with a close stop loss after a sort of a bit of a rise, and when it starts falling again, then there could be short selling opportunities. No signs yet that it's bottomed out. So if you have to trade it, it would be on the short side.
Okay, Prakash, come to you. You also saw Navneet go through all the results, the key ones, LIC, India Cements, Opto Circuits. What's on your radar?
Well, the only one that possibly looks worth reviewing is India Cements. I think the numbers weren't so bad after all. If you look at, as compared to some of the bigger players, the south-based smaller ones look much more promising. I'm pretty bullish on Madras Cement, given the fact that there's an imminent price hike, at least 10 to 12 rupees per bag, which could change the dynamics for them. So, but cement is not something that you would really dwell upon. The mid caps that seem post the earnings season that seem very promising, Motherson Sumi. I've been talking about this since quite some time, and Havels. These are two very distinctly turnaround stories or promising stories in the making that people could look at on dips.
Deepak, come to you. Given that in the light of some of the important news flow which lies ahead, what kind of range do you see Nifty trading in, given the fact that on Friday it shut shop at the lowest of the week and has not really moved around much, 80-90 point range for the entire week?
Well, the Nifty is a lot flatter than the mid-cap and the small-cap indices, especially the small-cap index. Now, the Nifty did sort of sneak below its previous low of last week of about 58.80, but it's still kind of hovering around the same levels. I would say 58.50, which was today's low, is the level to look at, whether it goes below that or not. If that holds for a longish time, it would mean that it's showing some signs of bottoming out. On the upside, look for say 59.75, 59.80. Above that, you start seeing 1 week highs, 10-day highs. That would start suggesting that an intermediate uptrend is on. Now, if you look at the difference in these two levels, that 58.50 on the downside, 59.80, 90 on the upside, there's barely 100 points. So it shows it's a narrow range, and a small move in either direction could change the intermediate trend.
Right. Prakash, to your mind, what would you play in the market, either stock-wise or sector-wise, in lieu of the key triggers?
Well, given the run-up to the budget, then it makes sense to be in a sector like power, which comprises of almost like 38-40% of the infrastructure spend that, is the next big milestone that possibly the finance minister is looking at reviving. So anything related to power, particularly the power producing side of the business, and from that stable, NTPC comes to my mind very readily. We've already seen some traction post the OFS, and it could probably be a pleasant surprise. And of course, because of that, the bank Nifty would also see some sort of a bounce back, because a lot of banks which are beleaguered right now would have exposure to these companies, and they would start shaping up much better. So my sense is that's going to be the combination which could probably lead to some sort of a Nifty revival.